Greetings to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to see you today as we venture into the ongoing saga of Caught Up. Today we will be coming into the exciting conclusion. Last time we spoke, Darlene was found dead. And interestingly enough, Josephine had been copulating with her own nephew. Let's see what will be coming at this juncture in the story. Of course, before I get into it, we must also iterate that Max's mother had come to avenge her son's death through the spiritual realm. Interesting. And now, with no further ado, Caught Up. Now, as was said before, Darlene didn't get away with murder as she thought she would. But in other parts of the world, i.e., the old yellow bus that was so familiar as Jacob's place of employment, he and Silky were living it up. Here lately, they'd been making googly eyes at one another and sexting each other when the bus got crowded. A couple of times when it was empty, though, they'd indulged in heavy, heated copulation, much to Jacob's elation. But banging Silky wasn't coming cheap, and Silky liked the fact that Jacob's pockets seemed kind of deep. Things seemed to be going well, and just as Silky planned, that is until Rayvon came like a whirlwind and took Silky's eye by storm. He, that is, Rayvon, was about 32 years old, give or take. The curly-headed, handsome, cute in Silky's words, and mind, cute in Silky's words and mind, Puerto Rican brown-eyed showstopper had just started working as a floor tech at the apartment building where Silky did her reception work. He wasn't the bulky or muscular type, but his body was toned and firm enough to make Silky take a fifth, sixth, and even a seventh look. Hell, one would stop counting after so many neck snaps whenever Rayvon Ayala walked past her desk. Silky tried to keep her composure when she saw him, but Mr. Ayala made Silky want to holler, and loud. With this turn of events, looks like Silky was definitely caught up. Wench, I don't want you around my son or me, and that's final. Maybelline stood making her demands known to Josie with the .357 Magnum in her hand to back her staunch and harsh words. Josephine wisely spoke softly and calmly to her sister with Victor concomitant. Maybe I don't want no smoke, okay? Put the gun down. I know you mad and jit, and you got the right to be. Wench, don't, Maybelline shouted. Don't plucking patronize me. I'll blow your plucking brains out right now. Okay, Josie lamented. Look, I'm sorry. I apologize. Without thinking, Maybelline squeezed the trigger, hollering, Wench, I don't want to hear that jit. But what was meant for Josephine struck Victor, a look of shock on his face as he clutched his chest and stumbled against the wall in the nearly empty diner where Maybelline had followed the two of them to. You see, Victor and Josephine were meaning to cease their affair. Maybelline got caught up in her feelings and was shortly thereafter caught up in handcuffs. Luckily, the bullet just made a flesh wound. It nearly missed him. Victor was blessed to have his life. His mother, Maybelline, was convicted of attempted voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. However, the judge threw the book at her, angered that she would shoot her only son. She, the judge that is, gave Maybelline 5 additional years for the illegal firearm and 6 additional years for each bullet in the gun. Maybelline was sentenced to 18 years in prison. She would be up for parole in 2044, perhaps sooner, on good behavior. Victor was devastated, to say the least. Look what getting caught up can cost you. Well, seeing as her sister was in prison, Jacob had to be there for Josie, who was going through nothing short of a depression. His dealings with Silky were mute for a time, which made Silky a little hot under the collar due to lack of dollars. However, Silky played it cool and feigned sympathy for Jacob so as not to arouse any suspicions. Besides, this gave Silky time to focus on fine-ass Rayvon and the possibilities of plucking his brains out. With the arrest and imprisonment of his mother, Victor left Winston County altogether and went to Texas. He winded up meeting, marrying, and impregnating Gwenna, the love of his life, in his newfound home. That quick, y'all. 3 years had passed. Jacob and Joseph cordially divorced, splitting all assets down the middle, and it was looking like Silky and Jacob might become a thing. Coupled with that Rayvon was Silky's side piece, which made dealing with sex with Jacob become easy for Silky, because when her and Jacob was doing it, she would just pretend, careful not to call his name, to be with Rayvon. It seemed to be an airtight scheme, especially due to the fact that now, or so Jacob thought, that Silky was his woman, he was extra generous with the Skrillers. Yes, indeed. Silky was so used to getting so many blue faces from Jacob that it was starting to become her favorite color. She, Silky that is, didn't have a favorite color, but this one would do. Also, she felt no guilt taking Jacob's bread, because she was laying down the cat and the brain like Catgirl and Batman and Einstein on 6 tons of Bicopia extract. It's a natural supplement for memory enhancement. Anyway, it would soon be revealed what Silky's real attachment and attraction to Jacob was all about. After all, Rayvon was getting damn tired of playing second fiddle. So what? Silky asked, pretending she didn't know what Rayvon was asking her. You know what I'm asking you, mommy. When you're going to leave that sloppy hijo de puta so we can be together, mi amor? Stop playing with mi corazón. Well, if your Espanol es no bueno, meaning your Spanish is not good, I'll translate. You see, Rayvon asked Silky when she was going to leave that sloppy mother shut your mouth. And then he told her to stop playing with his heart, to which she said, because she spoke Spanish and understood it fluently, Mi amor, juego sin corazones, especialmente no tuyo, which is to say, my love, I play with no hearts, especially not yours. And she sealed her statement with a kiss. Of course, that's all the two needed to get to cranking up the bed springs. After all, they just finished twice before the conversation. Later that night, they planned to take Jacob for all he had, and Rayvon vowed to kill the ninja if he had to earn his ill-gotten keep. According to plan, Silky was going to lay the cat down extra good on Jacob, enough to put the ninja to sleep. Also, sleeping pills in his drink would knock him out even more. Josie had her own pad, of course, by now. She was separated from Jacob, so there was no interference. All interference was null and void. When the old slob went to sleep, as Rayvon had taken to calling him, and Silky made no objection, they would rob him blind, taking the 250 grand he had hidden and locked away in his own safe. As Jacob was falling for Silky, he'd entrusted her with the combination. Caught up in ecstasy with her, Jacob failed to see the rose-colored glasses he saw Silky through were stained with blood and cold-hearted deception. Silky would rob Jacob for all that he had, all that he had worked for, and the wench wouldn't flinch or even look back. Silky met Jacob at his house at about 9. As usual, they made casual conversation. Jacob made corny jokes that Silky bogusly laughed at, and it was on to hot and heavy loving between the sheets. It was more like on top of them with the way these freaks with benefits went at it, because Silky sure wasn't Jacob's friend, and tonight would say it all. Silky wore new royal blue lingerie to heighten Jacob's arousal tonight, and it worked very well. He was thirsty and panting for Silky's good and thick honey pot now. She licked her glistening gloss-covered lips and gently placed a cupped hand on Jacob's nuts. He shivered at the sensation as Silky stood face to face with her eyes locked on his. They were past the condom stages, of course, so Silky gripped Jacob's raw manhood tightly, threw herself hard knees first to the floor, and executed nothing less than flame-throwing fellatio. Once again, Jacob sounded nothing short of a werewolf in distress. That his sounds were those of sexual pleasure was gravely incredible. Yet Silky poured her black girl magic on without pause. After she laid the flute song on your boy without missing every note, Silky pushed Jacob down on the bed and commenced to ride his fat ass. Jacob's mouth flung open, and the ninja sounded like a swarm of bees in hot summer as Silky laid the wop down on him. Their bodies fleshly smacking brought Jacob home early and happy as he laughed loudly with his climax. By his reaction, Silky knew that once again she had lain down her thing. 15 to 20 minutes later, the ninja was calling hogs, just as Silky and Rayvon had planned it. When she texted Rayvon, his rendezvous with her was speedy, as he was parked not too far from Jacob's house so as to execute he and Silky's heist more expeditiously. By the sound of it, Jacob was out for the long haul. Or was he? Anyway, at about 1 a.m., Rayvon was at Jacob's door with Silky sneaking him into the quiet and still domicile, that is, with the exception of Jacob sawing wood and taking names. Thinking they had time to kill, just a little bit, Silky and Jacob took to bantering whispers and kissing and jit. 5 minutes turned into 10, and 10 into 15, and the two were still kissing and talking cash trash about what they would do with their filthy lucre. They were so caught up in their conversation that the two didn't notice that Jacob had stopped snoring. They were so hell-bent, so caught up with their evil plan that they didn't realize they'd made some mistakes, left some loose ends, i.e., the sleeping pills that Silky crushed up in Jacob's rum and coke. They were expired. She should have checked the date, But no, 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 no. Mm-mm. They were so cute, the two of them giggling all over the living room furniture, kissing and jet, making googly eyes at one another and things. They were so caught up in each other that they didn't know that Jacob got up to go to the bathroom, heard them and saw them giggling and kissing, went up to his room and got the sawed-off shotgun and was standing looking at them, waiting for them to look his way. But they were too caught up. So Jacob had to speak up. You know, he began scaring the fudge out of the two so bad that Rayvon fell off the sofa, and Silky let out a short, stifled scream, covering her mouth and shivering at the sight of Jacob and the ominous sawed-off shotgun. Jacob continued, I thought you loved me, Silky. I thought you and me, didn't we? As Silky began to shed tears, now scared as jet, Jacob began to fume. Don't you dare sit there and cry in front of this ninja. What the flock you want to do, boy? Huh? Jacob jerked the sawed off now with an intimidating motion, and Rayvon, the one who had so boldly called Jacob a sloppy hijo de puta, was nothing but a pitiful Spanish fly shaking in his boots right now at Jacob's mercy. Rayvon didn't hesitate to throw Silky right under the bus. Funny thing is, Jacob seemed to be riding this one too, at least for the moment. Yo, man, look, I don't want no smoke, it was Silky idea to come and rob you, Holmes, not me, But before Rayvon could finish, there was a hole in his chest, and Silky was scared to death, caught up in a death trap of Jacob's making, and definitely at his mercy, or shall I say, mercilessness. He didn't wait before he turned the gun on Silky, saying, Wench, I earned you, and now I burn you. Silky screamed loudly before the shot that sent her to her maker entered her flesh, and then finally, Jacob turned the gun on himself and was caught up in his own gunfire. Victor and Josephine, as well as Maybelline, who was still in prison, needless to say, were all appalled at the gruesome turn of events. The wake and funeral were bittersweet as Victor introduced his two twin daughters to their auntie, Josephine. Odessa Clinton, formerly Carlisle, but she was still her old self. Sure, she shed a few tears for Cubby, who we all know was Jacob, but at the end of the day, Jit, the ninja, was dead and gone. So, after the funeral, that same night, Josephine called her new 38-year-old boo named Drew. As the handsome 6'8" tall glass of honey brown water answered the phone in his alluring baritone voice, Josephine so lasciviously said, Hi, my baby. Hi, my young sexy thing and king. I can't wait till tonight to get caught up. So caught up again with you. And this is the end. Seems the getting caught up never ended. Seems that caught up is a thing to do. But that type of rendezvous is something I think we should be through with. See you later. You didn't get caught up, did you? Did you?